Meow.
That's a good water one. That one.
Yeah. When you bored, did you never do that when you were in high school?
No. Why in high school? Like, is that when your
That's when I learned it.
that's when your body
That's
allows
when-
you to do it?
By
No,
the time I hit puberty, I started dripping water out my mouth.
all right. So, welcome to Mind Your Own Small Business, the podcast that's better than coffee break, cheaper than therapy. Today we're going to be talking about work-life balance, maybe, if we get around to it. I'm Brian. This is,
Oh, am I saying my name?
yeah.
Oh,
I'm Brian Thackeray.
What do you think What do you think
Thomas
that
Scott.
was? A title? I'm Anthony Armstrong. My friends call me Pepperoni.
Pepperoni Tony.
Just Pepperoni, thank you.
Oh, they dropped the Tony now.
Yeah.
Okay.
We identify as Pepperoni.
All right. So,
Off to a good start.
we're always off to a good start. I should probably not
Okay.
drink that right into the microphone.
Wow,
I was going to bring mine up too, but the ice, I didn't want to get yelled at for making unnecessary noise.
Hey,
Hey, no. You hit the mic twice last time with your phone.
True.
well,
That's, yes.
work-life balance. It's the balance of work and life.
Mm-hmm. So, you were the one that wanted to bring that up. Like, what did you want to touch on with work-life balance?
Well, I think it's interesting because I gotta be careful. I gotta be careful how I say this. It could be viewed that as an entrepreneur, you have the
More free time.
liberty. Yes, your schedule is what you make of it. Correct.
It is.
And so then it is thought that if something comes up during the day that requires your attention, that you should be able to go and address those things in a swift and efficient manner.
Mm-hmm.
But if you were working for the man, which, let's clarify, working for the man is not bad.
Yeah.
It's just what we say.
The man or the woman.
Yeah.
Have you had a female boss?
Yes, I have. And she's fantastic.
Did they act like men? Mine did.
Mine didn't.
Oh.
No, wasn't.
Anyway, so
Yeah,
if you
you
work
do
for the
very different things than that.
establishment,
Oh, there
Okay.
you go. Yeah.
if you work for
Powers
the,
that be.
the powers that be,
The Austin powers that be.
all of a sudden that mind shifts, it happens. That paradigm shift applies, and then there's not an expectation that you should drop what you're doing to attend to family matters.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm curious to know what y'all view as this delicate work-life balance, because I would argue that it's a constant evolving process. It's not something that either of you have mastered yet.
No.
Right? And I certainly haven't.
I was cutting out wood till about 1 a.m. last night here. So, but that's so like we had a machine at home. It broke, and
Sure.
so I bought part of your machine, and so now I'm cutting here until that one's fixed. But then once that one's fixed, we're selling what we were selling in a week in a day or two now, and so now we're going to end up using both machines just to keep up with the higher workflow, and it is literally like suffering from success. Like it's a great problem to have, but it is a problem.
It's a problem
I
nonetheless. I say that,
that.
all the time.
You hate that,
That saying.
That saying.
Oh, it's a good problem to have.
but it's still a problem.
It's still a problem. It's still something that you have to fix, and it's still something that occupies your mental load capacity.
That is, but it is. But the thing is that this problem means that I'm now making more money in 2 days than I was making in 7.
But then also, how much money are you spending in 7 days than what you used to be spending in 7 days?
My material cost is up substantially, but I'm still making the same. I'm actually making better margins now because I can cut my wood
yeah.
more efficiently and all that jazz. But the thing is that like as I grow, it's still nice because that means that now in 4 days I can make what I was making in a month, what was taking me 30 days. So
You just need to remember there's a wonderful lady, a hip hop artist, if you may, who said you can't that she's still Jenny from the block. So she used to have a little.
I gotta.
Now you have a lot.
I don't have a lot yet. I have enough to cover my means finally.
Well, okay, so I think that there's the wisdom in that is that there are. I mean, we were talking about this a little bit before, but there are ebbs and flows, right? So, and the problem can be is that if you get so stuck in the fact that there's you work hard and you say, well, shoot, if I work harder or longer at the detriment of time that you want to spend doing other things like family, right? The whole work life, balanced life. And like in my situation, a lot of times I love work. Like I love doing
Absolutely.
what I'm doing. And so it's really easy for it to get, you get caught up in it. Next thing you know, it's a 12-hour day because you love doing that 12-hour day. But then there are other things and people that you love that end up being forgotten about because you're so involved in what's happening within your work. But there's ebbs and flows, and there are some situations where you have times that it is very, very busy, and you work in those times, and that's something that I feel like you don't have as much when you're working a 9 to 5, right? Because it's, well, we need you between these hours, and there's heavier times, but
I would argue though, as you become like a salaried employee, there's
That's not necessarily true anymore.
Yeah, I would say that the demand for your work is ever present. Like you can have busy seasons just like you can in your entrepreneurial job.
Yeah,
right?
but you don't get paid more when you have busy seasons. That's the thing that sucks about. That's the thing about salary work that I'm really realizing more and more as I like work for myself. Like I'm busier than I've ever been, but like I'm directly seeing a correlation to how much money I'm making. While with all of my other jobs, we'd hit busy times. So when I was working for that internet service provider, when it was moving time and people were moving states,
Yeah,
snowbirds
sure.
were going back and forth, we would work so much harder. I mean, part of it was commission, so you would see a little bit higher in your commission side, but they didn't pay you anymore. You didn't get any bonuses. There were no thank yous. It was like, hey, get your numbers down. I know that you're taking calls back after back for 8-10 hours straight. We have mandatory overtime, but like it's like you have a job, you need to fill that job, and if you make us more money, that's awesome, but we don't care. Like if you quit, we'll just find someone else. Like that mentality is really interesting because and I don't know if that's like a more modern thing. Because when you watch older shows, they always talk about like Christmas bonuses and whatnot and things like that. So as the company made more money, like
Sure.
upper management would
Christmas
then,
vacation.
yeah,
A prime example, right?
where if the company made more money, you did more work, then the company would then give you a bonus reflecting the more work that the company made. And the thing is that while I was working for that company, the old guard, so it was owned by one company, purchased by another. There was a merger done, all this jazz. And the company that existed before the merger, they actually had that. Your Christmas bonus was directly tied to the dividends the company made.
Profit sharing.
Yeah. So if the company made like 20% more, you got a bonus that was
Yeah.
expended that extra money. But the thing is that is so rare, like nowadays, that they didn't do that.
Now, to be fair though, that is rare in your experience.
Yes, in my limited experience for the companies that I've worked for, it is really rare.
Because I believe that if you are out there seeking a job and you are in that career mindset,
My dad never had that, and he's been working for the last 30 years,
Yeah, true.
35 years. Like I think it's just like I think there was a shift in the way businesses run that just kind of changed that to you are a member of the business family to now you are a cog, and if you break, we'll replace you. So like you work for us for this amount of money. If you don't like that, find a different job. And that's the reason why people don't stick with the same businesses anymore. Like that was a big shift that they talked about, that before you used to climb the corporate ladder.
Yeah.
Now you jump ship, and that's how you progress in your job. You work as a certain employee to gain enough experience, then you apply for management at another company, then you move up middle management, and you move your way up by jumping companies.
Yeah.
Because lateral movement is so hard. It's so hard now within a company. But I'm losing the thread. But going back to the reason I brought all that up is the biggest danger with that. The harder you work, the more money you make. There is that drive. It's like, okay, I can push myself a little bit more. Like if I miss XYZ, like with my kids, like I skip family dinner, then that's an extra like $600 I can make. Like, I don't
So
know,
then the argument is that $600 worth?
the time that you miss with your family.
No, I wouldn't even say the time. Is it worth missing out on those experiences? Arguably, no, right? Like if put with a decision of, would you rather see your daughters grow up and witness the first and X this and that, Y that versus earn $600? Most of us, I would say, oh, yeah, well, I'd love to see my daughter do it. But
Yeah.
the reality is,
We do that all the time. Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, I missed dinner with the family because of one thing or another.
yeah,
So Mondays and Wednesday are my cut days. Tuesday, I had to run down to Idaho Falls and grab lumber because we used to.
you
go
mean
up.
Billings? Are we in Montana?
I think we admitted at some point that we were
Son of a
actually.
gun.
Anyways, but yeah, so that's the crazy thing. But on that same note, my daughters see me more in the last year than they've seen me any time prior. Like when I'm gone now, they'll pester my wife, "Where's Daddy? Where's Daddy? Where's Daddy?"
Yeah.
Which is it. I don't know. Like that is fascinating to me because we worked from home for our first year entirely.
Sure.
And it wasn't until 3 months ago that I started leaving the house to do stuff. But, anyways,
Well, I was going to add in, it looks different. If you're talking about like with kids, right?
Yeah.
We all have kids that are here, and we care about the kids that we have that we're raising, hopefully. But sometimes it looks different. So, for example,
Hang on.
know-
We should just mention,
yes,
and correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure between the three of us, we have 13 children.
I don't know if we should
Wait.
admit that.
no, I thought we have. Oh, no. Okay, that makes sense. I'm doing the math right.
So,
Anyway,
yeah, we have lots of kids because in Montana it's really easy to make children.
It's
But-
the long winters. And
yeah.
there's nothing else
gotta
to
find
do.
something to do.
Yeah.
Because working's not an option. That's the real work-life balance is what it is. It's like, how do I work long enough so I can go home and make more children? I don't know. But
And then you have to work harder to pay for those children.
Yeah,
it's
for all
it's
those.
just a
that's a
self-feeding.
cycle. Man.
So, but it looks differently. You know, I've seen when you're here doing some work that you'll bring your daughter with you, and she
True.
gets to experience, or you'll bring your son when he broke his leg.
Yeah.
And he was able to come and be here and be with Dad, and
Somebody else broke it. I want that to be clear. I did not do that.
one of those delightful trampoline
Trampoline parks.
facilities,
That I take my daughters to twice a week in order to keep them healthy.
and broke him today.
Yeah, just a little bit. I threw out my knee and hurt my back. It's fine.
No big deal.
Isn't
Those
that
aren't
hurt
necessary.
my knee throughout my back?
What did I say?
You said throughout my knee, hurt my back.
Can you?
Can one throw out a knee?
I think you can. Anyways,
All right.
I think it's throughout the knee, through the back.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay.
'Cause
All right.
everything's connected like chiropractors.
so my
Head, shoulders, knees,
daughter
and toes.
wanted encouragement jumping off the high dive into the foam pit, and so I jumped off first.
Nice. To show her that it
does-
doesn't hurt.
It doesn't
nothing's
hurt.
Wrong.
And yeah, I didn't. I'm like, yeah, see, it's great, it's fun. And so, in order to get herself courage, she sat on the edge and then pushed herself off. And then she would just do it over and over.
Yeah,
'cause
no
she
stopping
knew.
'em.
Yeah, then it was fine. But helping my kids overcome fear is like one of my favorite things to do as a dad. Like watching them, like, I can't do this. Like, yes, you can. And then they do it, and they're like, that wasn't bad at all. And then they just do it over and over. So good, so good.
That was me when I took my son out to go snorkeling in Catalina Island,
Mm-hmm.
and he just wouldn't do it. He wouldn't do it, and we're there the last day, and I'm like, "Hey, I'm going snorkeling," and he's on the shore, and finally he just says, "Forget it," and just jumps into the water, and we ended up swimming with sharks, which was really exciting. Not the ones that'll eat you, but whatever. But coming back to but you were able to leave during the middle of the day and do that with your daughter. So yeah, you may be missing a family dinner. Because the family dinner idea, when you have that 9 to 5, that's kind of that iconic, like, oh yeah, I want to come home in time, but it really, you have to make a better, what's what I'm looking for? You have to make a more concerted effort
Yeah.
to insert your kids and your wife into what's happening in your daily activities. So maybe it is that your son comes, or my son came and helped me break down boxes, and we're shoulder to shoulder breaking down boxes that need to go get cleaned up in the warehouse. Or
I did witness it, and that is true. But the way you described it made me think that, like, you're in the trenches. It's World War II.
Yeah,
we
breaking
fought
down boxes.
shoulder to shoulder. Those dirty boxes.
we were just me, him, and a couple of box cutters taking down a box. So
One corner at a time.
Okay, that's the one thing I was talking. I remember who I was talking about this yesterday. Like child labor laws when you own your own small business don't mean a lot. I had my I don't remember which child it was. I think it was Diane or Eliza. I had them like set up the laser cutter for me. It was like, okay, flip. Oh, it was Eliza, my youngest, and I was like, okay, flip that key, hit that button, do this, flip this switch, and she thought it was the coolest thing in the world. And then when I had to do anything that was actually dangerous, I did it myself. But it's just so fun. Like the wonderment that kids have is amazing.
My son, I had him come and do boxes, and this was kind of fun because I says, I'll pay you 5 cents a cut that you have to make. And he looked at, and there were quite a few boxes, and he looked at it, he's like, just pay me. How about I pay $15 instead? And for me, it was a great deal because there were way more than like 15 boxes. It would have totaled, it was going to be like $45 in cuts that he was going to have to do. and he was just like, no, how about $15? And I was like,
Worst trade deal in history.
so I don't know. I think there's those joys that you get to bring your kids along that you wouldn't necessarily get to have, or you'd have to have a culture. And you're working for an establishment, there would have to exist that culture of bringing your kids along, and that it would be okay, and you'd have to probably go through some approval process. Whereas owning your own business, it's helpful, or
It is,
easy.
and it's really fun because they get to see all of that. The one thing that I think is really interesting, because you talk about work-life balance, like I was thinking about this. I don't like have that. Like I just live. And sometimes I'm working and sometimes I'm not. But like I don't feel like, okay, this is my working hat, this is my play hat, and I'll just do it. I'll be like,
Oh, definitely.
I've finished my stuff, so now I'm going to go home and take my kids out for dinner.
Well, and how many times during the day do we get either phone calls or texts from our significant other asking us to help with X, or insight into this, or don't forget this?
Pick your child up from dance practice and then take them to their reading night.
Yeah, right?
That was literally the conversation before we started.
Yeah.
okay, though I have to bring this piece up because this is something that I ran into. I know you've run into. I've seen other individuals that run into this, and that is when they mesh so completely that now you become you can go take care of that because you have the free time to do it when really you don't. It's okay. Let me take a couple steps.
No, I know where you're going.
Okay, but I want to tread on this one a little delicately.
I totally agree.
As far as this, but so for example, when I first started my company, I was in a 2-bedroom apartment. Right, I talked about that the last time I was on the podcast. That it was this 2-bedroom apartment. So I had my bedroom that was here, and I had the extra room that had all my stuff in it. So I was working at home. Well, then as I grew, I eventually at one point I had to have my desk in the corner of my bedroom, and it was the worst. It was absolutely the worst thing because I'm in the space that I'm supposed to be a nurturer and a lover and a husband and a father, and I'm staring at a computer in that corner that's the source of my stress. And I couldn't do it. I couldn't relax it. And it would be very common that I'd be in there just, nose deep into some big problem. And then toddles in, one of my kids and goes, "Dad, you should come and play with me." And they don't have that barrier. Or my wife comes in and says, "Hey, I'm going to go run and do this errand. Will you watch the kids while I'm gone?" And it becomes so intermingled that then I was getting less stuff done because in that situation, I had to be a father and a business owner and a husband in that same stack.
plane, yeah.
And I know my wife has gone through that as well when she's done work for some other small businesses, and she runs into that problem where she would rather be playing or helping, but has to constantly be pushing aside what's happening in that home office. So the best thing that happened for me was when I removed myself from that, so I could bring my kids to me when I had the time and opportunity to bring them to me, but it wasn't this, oh, hey, you're around, therefore you're accessible, therefore now you're not really doing anything important, so will you go take the kids to this practice?
So interesting thing, like, so I had an issue with that originally when I was working right out of college, of like not being able to separate that. But with this recent go around with my wife and I running our business now, we haven't had that problem, and I think it's because my wife and I are both working
That's
really
exactly
hard.
what
I was going to say, yeah. I bet it's because
And so we both understand when the other person's working that we need to pick up the slack. So like when she's working really hard, I'm the parent, and then when I'm working really hard, she's the parent. And we kind of we switch off like that. But when I was working at home because of the unknown virus of unspecified origin, that was a problem.
Yeah.
Where she was just like, "Hey, can you do it?" I'm like, "I'm on a call. Like I can't."
I
stop."
can't like stop what I'm
But
doing.
the thing I remember most, my wife cut off the tip of her pinky.
Oh my gosh.
And so I'm on a phone call and she's like, I cut my finger off. So she just has this bloody rag on her hand. And I'm like,
What am I supposed to do?
your bill's fine, sir. I'm going to put you on a brief hold. like what? So
Yeah, what do you
I'm like, she put it in a baggie. And to be fair, it was only like the top quarter of an inch, but that's still a lot of your finger.
a lot of fingers.
Her
That's still-
fingers are different lengths now because they had to shave off the tip of her bone.
They couldn't get the
They couldn't get it back on, and then there wasn't enough skin to close it
that
up.
poor ruined baggie.
Yeah, so
She suffered a loss.
they pulled off the fingernail
Oh,
and stitched the
gosh.
whole thing together. They shaved the bone and stitched it. It was crazy. It took her a long time to get used to that because she plays the oboe and she needs her pinky to like hit keys, and like her body was getting used to not having the nerve endings there, and so it was very uncomfortable for a long time. But
God bless you, Brian's wife.
yeah, she's amazing.
But I think, and so bringing it in and pulling that, I think that understanding, and when you're looking at it from, I mean, this sounds really cliche, but it comes down to communication. And it comes down to this. I mean, treading lightly, because you can't sit there and be like, well, honey, I'm taking care of the bills, so you just need to stay home, and 1950s style. But I think it's
you barefoot in the kitchen making
"Get in there, make me a flan, and
I don't know.
I'm all about flan.
What
So-
country are we in?
But I feel like it's one of those. It's one of those things that you communicate, and
Far
you're like
south, like Mexico.
super. But you communicate on that, and when there is that understanding, where she's like, "Okay, I understand now." When you're knee deep in something, I need to give you that space, and then vice versa. When my wife was doing work for another small business, it was the same thing where I'm like, "Hey, I need to pick up the slack because she's working on something. The kids want her attention, and so maybe I need to come to a stop where I'm at in what I'm doing, so that I can give her the support that she needs." And then it becomes a nice, a good mutually beneficial communication and relationship in business. And it's not necessarily that you're working together, because I mean, kudos to you for working with your wife.
It's only led to one big argument, maybe two.
Wow,
That's impressive.
that's super impressive.
No, but so okay. Here's a question I have for you. So for us, we only have
who?
essentially
Me or him?
me and my wife is what I was talking about.
No, who's the
No,
question?
who's the question for?
Both of you.
Okay.
So we only have
If you had to pick
one.
your favorite, who would it be?
We should have an answer.
I like
an
both
answer.
of you the same.
We have to. That's the same lie I tell my kids. So, if we should have a little button. We should have a little button so that when we want to answer, we just.
You hit it. And the first one.
Hit my mic.
How? Yeah, that's gonna go over great in the audio. We have one deadline a day, and that's getting to the post office before shipments go out. Do you have essentially that
We
same?
both look at it. We're like, yeah, us too.
Is that essentially it? Because you have most of your stuff picked up, and so you just have to have it out in the front so that they, except for
You're saying my deadlines for the day?
yeah, like do you have many deadlines? Because of that, like we can just push things around, and I have insomnia, so I can work whenever, even if it's like 4 a.m. But
Yeah, yes, this business, I would say, especially on my desk, the majority of my deadlines are
post.
yes, shipping services, UPS, FedEx, USPS.
And so as long as you hit that, like that is your only deadline, and then everything else can kind of be moved around. Is that more or less the same for you? Because like that's the big thing. You have more stuff.
I do.
His job sucks worse than mine.
My deadlines are well, as far as a daily deadline, I can kick stuff down the road. I mean, I even if it's like, well, we have a shipment that needs to go out that we were unable to find, and we're coming right down close to it. It'll go out tomorrow, and that's not the best way, I feel like, but sometimes you have to, right? If we're already upgrading a shipment to a 2-day and our ship times are 5 days, you better believe that I'm going to push that to the side if I have another customer that's like, oh my gosh, I've got, we're headed out on a trip, we're trying to get these sandals in time, whatever, and we're trying to get that shipment out quickly. But the deadlines I have are mostly, quarterly, monthly. You got your financial deadlines, you've got your sales tax, you've got your,
All
the
of
bills.
mine's handled by Etsy. I don't have to pay any sales tax, which is super nice. But I don't own my own website.
Yeah. Well, and
Does most of your sales tax get taken by your payment thing though? Like, do you just plug that in and then it pays it automatically?
So on our multi-channel marketplaces, yes, the Amazons, the eBays, the Walmarts,
Etsy's,
yeah, it's all processed through those. But anything that's happening directly from our sites, then yeah, we have to process our own.
So even if they do it through like PayPal and whatnot, they won't take it out for you?
No,
Interesting.
no, they don't take it and file it.
Okay.
We file it all through the
Yeah,
state.
there might be an option to take it. It's the
So they'll
filing.
take it, and then they'll just all go into your account, and it'll be up to you to set it aside.
That is correct.
I just have to say one thing.
Yeah.
So you're talking to the top of your mic, and you're talking to the front.
Do I need to move it like this?
Yeah. So tilt it so it's facing you more. Yeah, like that.
Okay. So that's kind of where my deadlines come in. When I have customers, I can't respond back to high profile customers and get back to them in 2-3 days. I got to get them back, in within 24 hours. Wholesale accounts and different things like that. So yeah, my deadlines are mostly financial deadlines. I mean, we've got, when are we having 1099s out in January? Taxes filed. When do I have my meeting with my accountant?
I've already done that.
Banks that need financial P&Ls and stuff. So that's where my deadlines tend to come in, and that gets tough for me because what often happens is that the stuff that's immediate, you're going, well, I should get this shipment out today because it feels immediate, when in reality that should wait a day because this other thing that really doesn't seem as pressing because it's not right in front of you, is more important. So it's weird, but I feel like that's, I don't know, is that the same I haven't worked in industry like other than for myself in years, so I don't know if it's the same.
I haven't worked for an establishment for a while, and it does seem like you have your deadlines there, but then as soon as somebody that's higher up on the ladder has
Something that's more important.
then your priorities shift.
To whatever's important to them.
Right. So, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, like the big thing, like my dad's a project manager for a hospital, and so he handles installing new operating systems. And so they'll have times where it's really fascinating because they have the big project, but there's milestones where they have to have certain systems up and running at certain times. And so like it's a lot of small steps. And once one small step like is off for whatever reason, like it just cascades. So then they have to work harder so they can make the
Yeah.
next milestone. Excuse me. And so they have to work hard to make up that lost time. So now instead of having 2 weeks to do the next milestone, now they have a week and a half
Right.
because the other one went over. And like, it's just one of those things where I remember he was supposed to be gone like the first 2 weeks of January, but they just completely missed a deadline. And he's like, I won't have to leave till the end of the month now. We did all of this stuff remotely until then. And because they just it just didn't work.
Dang.
But that's crazy to me. Yeah, you did it. You did it.
I did. I bumped.
He
I
did
bumped
it.
The thing. It was me. this
Wasn't
time.
me.
I didn't make noise. No, but yeah, because like, yeah, I don't know. Kind of going back to what I was saying before, like how my life's kind of meshed to like I don't have work-life balance. I just kind of I live and sometimes making money and sometimes I'm not. What would be an indicator for you all that you're having an issue that needs to be addressed more than your wife just being like, I haven't seen you in 6 days or something?
Great.
No, so I don't remember if I talked about this last time or not, but it was one of the coolest things for me was when I was sitting on a balcony in Mexico answering emails, or when I took a customer call on on a rock face, and I was like, this is so cool that I can be, engaging customers and making money while I'm also off doing things that I love in my life. When I personally, when I know that things are a little bit off balance, when kind of what the canary in the working coal mine looks like is one is kids. I think kids are really good indicators of I'm not seeing you enough. You can kind of gauge that. I do think what you mentioned about wives being like, well, hey, I miss you. I want to be with you or whatever. But for me, it's almost more of when I take an analysis of, my whole week and I go, okay, what did I get accomplished outside of the workplace? Because if I'm only accomplishing things that are happening inside of these walls, within my company, then yes, I'm accomplishing things, but what am I accomplishing outside of it? And so that might be, did I build anything in my wood shop? Did I work with my kids on a project? Did I read a book to one of my kids? Did I take my wife out? What other accomplishments? And I can get into where my goal setting and different things are not for this episode, but I say, okay, what are these other to-dos that exist outside of the realm of just this kind of making my company build up, and what's outside of it? And if it's just I come home and then I sit down in front of the TV and watch Netflix and then go to bed, I don't feel like I've really accomplished anything unless if I'm coming home, grab my wife, we sit down and watch a show together that she wants to watch, then there's that connection. Then I feel like I've rebalanced. And so it's that, what are my check marks? I hit it again. What are my check marks? I'm like super self-conscious now.
You should be, because I am. I'm terrified of hitting mine.
It's fine.
It's not fine because you'll bring it up.
I'll just bring it up when I'm editing and I hear this loud dong. I had to drop the audio because it was so loud. It peaked bad. But I didn't cut it out because I thought it was funny.
Yeah. See?
But we'll
all
see.
with the
We'll see
comedy.
if it happens.
But yeah, basically saying, what am I doing and accomplishing? Not just doing it, really is, what am I accomplishing outside of my work realm that is making a difference in my life or the life of those around me? And if the answer is nothing, then I need to cut back on this part of it and start focusing on, okay, whether it's civil service or kids or family or
I think it's interesting to hear that because I think from my desk it's a little different, mainly because of I feel like of the responsibility that I have to you as my employer, right? And that if something had to give, I don't feel like I could be like, if I was like, hey, I'm not getting as much sleep as I feel like I should be, I'm gonna start coming in at 10, like.
Who would
right,
start
like-
working at 10 in the morning? Should already be up for like hours.
Or like I think now to be clear and completely fair to you, you have been very accommodating to any like things that come up, and I think that's probably because of the fact that I tend to work quite possibly more than I should. But I think from my side of the equation, it's more of if I feel like something's slipping outside of this area, that means that I have to manage my time better and not necessarily that I need to give up something here because of the obligation that I have to, that this is my main source of employment and I have to put my all in here. And if things are slipping around, then I gotta either wake up a half hour earlier or I have to stay up 45 minutes more or something like that.
So just to kind of active listen on that, you're saying that essentially when you see there's an imbalance or there's something slipping here, that it's more about a restructuring, not a reduction. It's not a
because I don't feel like I could come to you and be like, well, I'm doing 40 hours now. Something I gotta, I don't know. I make every problem sound like super trivial, and that's not necessarily the case. Because if I were to come to you and say like, "Hey, my kids are missing me," you'd be like, "Cool, Fridays at noon, we're all peacing out." Right? Like you've kind of created that environment, and I think that's
like with skiing, like what you
yeah,
did with
exactly.
skiing.
Yeah, I went with my son skiing. But if it were something trivial, I guess I'm trying to think of a trivial thing that you would have to. Wow, trivially makes it sound like it's not really important. So I don't know how to I don't know of an example of something that seems like it's important, but it's really not, but it is enough that you have to cut something out of your work life. I don't know. But for me, it's more of if something came up that was a consistent, like, hey, I have to leave for 2 hours from now until the end of time because of X,
YZ, whatever.
yeah, whatever thing is calling upon me, that I would need to make that up on my personal time. That I couldn't come to you and say like, well, I'm going to work 9 to 3 from here and forever. It would be, okay, now I'm shifting and I'm going to go 6 to 3 so that this obligation, for lack of a better term, is met, and then I have the time for the other things.
I don't know. Because my business, as the way it's being run right now, is such a different creature than the organization that you guys built up. It's so free flow. Like, because my wife and I, for fun, we'll paint stuff and we'll make stuff, and they're like, "Oh, that would be neat to turn into a product." And so, like,
Right.
we work on projects together. So right now we're working on a wall art it's a laser cut piece. Then we do some resin work and things like that. And so on Saturday we're going to spend the day like R&Ding this project, and that's what we're doing for fun. But it's also technically work.
Yeah.
And so like we're kind of artists like with our business.
I think you totally are.
Because we're making things, but like I don't know, like we're not painters or whatnot. I don't know. It's
I think your scope of artist needs to be
wider.
yeah.
Like
You're artists. You are. You're if you don't want to call it artists, you can call it creators.
I've always called myself a maker because like that's
there you go.
That's an
That's a
online
great
thing.
term.
If somebody's buying an idea that you have, I think you're a maker. Whether or not that's paint to canvas or creating a shoe, like I don't know. I think that term is very versatile.
And the things that I've been doing things like that for fun. Like when 3D printing was a thing. Like my first guy I worked for.
Was a thing?
Has it phased out?
Yeah, it first became a thing. Is how I should word
okay.
that. We
was
got
behind
one
the
at
times.
work, and like this is amazing.
Yeah.
And then I immediately went out and I bought a bigger one for myself, and then I kept that for like 6 years. And we printed a whole Mandalorian costume, and then my daughter was a stormtrooper. My youngest daughter was Baby Yoda, and my wife was Cara Dune. That was a fun year. I still have the helmet.
All rights and reserved to Disney.
Yes. I'm not taking it. But yeah, so like, and I did that, and then I was like, I should turn this into a business, and that's actually how Thackeray Factory 3D started off. It was a 3D printing, like you could send us jobs and we'd print them for you and mail them.
Right. Oh yeah.
And we sold nothing for a year, and then all of a sudden we're like, all right, let's do some other stuff. And so we had our one entity rugged life gear was you're readjusting.
I am. I'm like fist.
You're good. You're good. So we had our one, which was a wholesaler with Chinese products, and then we had our second one, which is our homemade stuff. And very quickly, our homemade stuff kind of took off, and that's been our bread and butter since then. So, you pushed your arm up in front of down. The silver part needs to go up. There you go. Now you can move it a little bit closer.
So many things that
I'm sorry.
You're trying to
You're trying to
learn.
teach yourself how to.
That's exactly right.
He does showmanship. I was a video producer. You just like to talk.
I don't do any. Yeah. I am comic relief, I guess. Maybe.
Yeah.
If that. I don't even know if I have any family members watching this. So far, if there's anybody that likes me, it's not family for me. Mm-hmm. So if anybody's coming to this podcast because of me, God bless you.
And we'll call them pepperoni stands.
Everyone.
Oh, yeah, I got to have a term. We'll sell T-shirts.
We'll make one for each of us, and we'll see who
No,
sells
for
the most
my
t-shirts.
fans.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, no, yeah, we
I
make
don't care about your fans.
We make t-shirts for each of us, and whoever sells the most t-shirts wins. I don't know when we'll do that, but maybe when we have more than like 16 people
You
listening
know what?
a day.
There are certain times in
In.
my life where I'm okay with losing, and I think that will be one of them.
Really?
I don't know. Hawking T-shirts?
I think it's a
You
great
could be the two first name gang.
That's true. I don't know your first names.
When I was first getting to know you, I could not remember what was your first name.
Oh, it's all right. It's happened my whole life.
And so I had a hard time.
I've had friends that have known me for like a decade, and then they came to the realization that
Your last name was
my
your
last name was my first.
Your last name was your last name.
Yeah,
Your first name doesn't exist anywhere in my phone for you. It's just Thackeray.
that's true. You are Thackeray because there's so many Bryans.
I have too many Brians in my life.
Well, but the thing is that most people call me Thackeray. So when I was in college, like me and my brother like roomed together, and we were known as the Brothers Thackeray. Like that's what they called us.
Nice.
And so like it's just my last name is kind of fun to say.
Oh, it's a super fun last name.
Now, just to complete the circle, I would like your last 4 social and the name of your first pet, and then we will have successfully leaked your information so that it can be stolen.
And you know, last time I met your mother, I don't remember her maiden name.
That's right. What was your
is,
your mom?
It wasn't Thackeray at the time. It was
No, it wasn't. I forget.
Really odd tangent. I hate the security questions where you choose your own question, because then I space out and I never remember the answer to them. Ugh.
I always hate it when they make the answers case sensitive because I'm
yeah.
like, do I
You do-
capitalize my grandfather's name or do I not?
Or the thing is that like one is like this a city where something happened, and then you're not sure if you put the state and or the city and the state,
City and the state.
or if you just put the city.
Absolutely.
And so like I've done that, and it's like, and then if it's case sensitive, you're like, did I forget to capitalize something? You're like, I know what my first car was.
Yeah.
But I don't know if I put make and model, make, model, year. Like, did
I add the nickname or the expletive?
Did I put
that's
the
in front
color?
or back?
like you're like, I remember there was one time I called in. They're like, "What was your first car?" And I said it. And they're like, "That wasn't what you wrote." And I'm like, "That
that's
is
what
my
it is.
car." I'm so mad.
Especially for things like that, you wish that the person on the other end would have some sort of, I don't know, radar or filter that they'd be like, oh, so he said a Blazer, but this says a Jimmy. Yeah, that's close enough, right? Like, they're like,
Well,
oh,
no,
my,
mine was like I said Blazer, but it was I wrote like Chevy Blazer.
oh my! I think see, that's even worse. They should have been able to be like, yes, that's correct.
So luckily, the person I was talking to at that time was be like, "Would you have written it a different way?" Or like they said something like that, and then I was able to do it. But oh man, that was actually so working customer service.
Yeah.
Things like that were the things that pissed people off the most.
Yeah.
Because legally, we
Yeah.
can't do anything because if we let someone who's not
Not
there,
authorized.
then the company can get sued and I can lose my job. And so it's like, I don't care how angry you get at me, your anger is not worth me losing my job. So like,
Click, hang up, then you get fired
yeah, that would I actually had a buddy that was fired for that same reason.
for hanging up on people.
Yep, he
Yeah.
hung up on someone. Well, that's because he was on there like for 15 minutes, and it was actually funny because the person he hung up on knew the area manager. He called him up, and he's like, "I want you to find who did this to me and fire him."
Oh my gosh.
And so the person who ran the call center listened to every single call he made in the month and wrote him up on 3 things so that they could fire him.
See, if your friend is the area manager of a call center that has a service, if you had a problem, why wouldn't you call your
Go
friend?
to the area manager.
Why would you call into the call center? That's no sense.
No, it does. I don't know. And he was fine, but he now works for a bank. I'm actually going to go see him after this. But
Blazer. Do you think another name? Is there another name, not Blazer? And you're like, sports coat.
Petticoat Junction.
oh man. So
Chevy
we're just about at time. Are there any final
Yes,
thoughts?
I want to add this.
No.
I want to add this. I think to put on top of there are 2 things I wanted to bring up. One was what Anthony had brought up about restructure. I think you put that really, really nicely. That it's not necessarily about cutting, but it is about restructuring and focusing not on, because time management, it's like when we talk about our warehouse management, right?
Yeah.
And we're like, we need more space in this warehouse. And then we like clean up boxes and we have more space.
Well, yeah. Or we look 8 feet above us.
Just reorganizing and reprioritizing the time and restructuring that mental capital, right? Everything that's there can make a big difference. And realizing that it needs to be restructured is kind of the first step. The second thing is, if you listeners are having a problem with work-life balance, schedule, again with restructuring, schedule that time to take. Don't let it happen. Do it purposefully. Be very, very deliberate in the way that you're putting together your excess time, and structure that as well. But even more than that, I found, especially when I was a startup and I was in my house, even when I was running it out of we're talking like an 8x10 hobby hut. I had a little computer in there. It was plugged in, and I worked out of that hobby hut. And just having that commute, walking from that to my house,
Was enough of a distance.
yeah, it was. When my father-in-law had to work remote, he loved where he was working at a large corporation, and he had a really hard time working at home because he liked his commute because it separated what was happening there, and he could process everything in his mind.
Yeah.
And so I told him, I said, well, then do a commute. Every morning, you get ready to go, get in your car, go drive around the block, go
then
drive
come
down
back.
to the local gas station and
yourself
come back.
Friend of mine.
Walk around the block and then show up. So you create that separation so that as they do start to mesh, I'm not saying you have to completely pull them apart, but if they're so on top of each other that you are at your daughter's ballet recital and you're taking calls like Robin Williams and Hook, okay, then you're like, okay, that's too integrated.
Yeah.
So
And-
anyway, that.
Yeah, but going off that, so I'll just add to that. What's fascinating to me is in my life, I needed that separation. I needed that separation. This is the first job I've ever had that I don't care if they meld, because I love making stuff so much, and I love incorporating my kids into that and showing them that side of it. It doesn't bug me that we worked at home for a year. And I would stop working and play with my kids whenever I wanted. It was fabulous. And so I'm gonna be really fascinated to see where I am in a year from now,
Yeah.
because at some point the amount of work we're hiring our first 1099 employee. It's my sister, but
Oh, that's right. We talked about that.
yeah, and
Yeah,
so
you're hiring your first 1099 contractor.
contractor, not employee.
Yeah, it's not-
Our
Yeah,
first
the-
contractor.
For the labor department
Strike
out there.
Yeah. Well,
stricken for the record.
I'll beep it out or something. Because we have so much work on Thursdays because
Yeah, because that'll work out better. I'm hiring my first 1099. Deep. First what?
contractor. No,
Just dub it.
Dub over it, yeah. Contractor.
oh man, it just reminds me of YouTube where they use all of those words like forever sleep and
Yep.
Stuff like that because-
to avoid the
the algorithms.
demonetized.
But
Forever sleep.
I want to maintain that work-life balance, but I'm having a hard time right now because nothing seems like work to me, and I've never really had to miss anything. And so as I get busier, there will be times where I'll have to move more into a management role where I'm more, and I'm getting there where I have to manage materials a lot more than we had to, because when you went from moving like 10 items a week to now we're moving 10 items a day, like I have to be on materials so much more than I used to.
Sure.
And then, anyways, it's just crazy. And so, I don't know. I'm in growing pains, and this is where having you guys, someone that I can talk to and kind of use as a barometer to know where I'm at is very useful to have. So, yeah, work-life balance is important. It's hard too.
It's important. The end.
The end.
So, he's gonna go. I'm gonna wrap this up real quick. So, this has been Mind Your Own Small Business Podcast. Listen to it wherever podcasts are available. Videos available on rumble.com and YouTube. Audio version is available anywhere audio podcasts are. So Spotify, Google, Apple, etc. Check us out. Follow, like, subscribe, do all that stuff so that other people can hear us. Bye.
Till next time, we'll talk about China.
Oh yeah, China. I'm excited about that one. I'm not gonna have a lot to say, but I'll learn a lot.
So that'll be the next one. Oh, maybe next one, maybe 2 down. I don't know what
It'll be next one. We usually do it.
All right.
And so then this is gonna.
Speaking of deadlines, gotta go make sure all our shipments are ready.
Baby, you give me ice and fire. You're giving me wind and rain.